I'm Nora Vance, 26, a software developer in Austin, Texas. The Sunday dinner unfolded like every other in our sprawling ranch-style home in Cedar Park. The long, scarred oak table groaning under the weight of Mom's slow-smoked brisket, fat glistening in the candlelight. Steam curling lazily from cast-iron skillets of jalapeno cornbread still popping with heat. The air was thick with mesquite smoke drifting in from the backyard pit, mingled with the sharp temps of Mom's homemade barbecue sauce and the faint sweetness of her peach cobbler cooling on the sideboard. Dad carved the brisket with theatrical flair, his knife flashing under the chandelier, passing the juiciest, pink-centered slices to my brother Caleb, 29, who lounged at the head of the table like he owned the deed to the house itself. Mom's eyes shone with that familiar glow as she refilled his mason jar of sweet tea, ice cubes clinking, a lemon wedge bobbing. Aunt Lisa and Uncle Ray chatted about Caleb's latest podcast episode, even though no one had heard it. Cousin Theo, 14, poked at his mac and cheese, sneaking glances at his phone under the table. I sat midway down, my plate modest, a thin slice of brisket end, a square of cornbread crumbling at the edges. Then Dad turned to me, fork suspended midair, sauce dripping onto the white tablecloth. Nora, enough with the whining about fairness. This is how families work. Accept unfair treatment or pack your bags and leave right now. The room froze. Caleb smirked, barbecue sauce smeared on his chin like war paint. Aunt Lisa choked on her Pinot Grigio, a nervous giggle escaping. Uncle Ray cleared his throat. Theo's eyes went wide, fork hovering. Mom's hand fluttered to her pearl necklace, new $1,200 from my rent money. But she said nothing, just nodded, subtly, as if Dad had spoken gospel. I set my linen napkin down, the fabric crisp against my fingertips, and felt the words settle like molten lead in my gut. They expected tears, groveling, submission. They had no idea I'd spent the last 2 years quietly coding a SaaS app that was about to explode and that every cent they'd siphoned from me was documented, frozen, and about to boomerang. Before I reveal how I walked out with everything they tried to bury, built an empire from the ashes, and watched their gilded world collapse into foreclosure, dust drop the city and state you're reading from in the comments. Let's see how far this story travels. The favoritism wasn't a phase. It was the operating system of our family, hard-coded before I could even spell my name. I was 6 when I built my first invention for the Cedar Park Elementary Science Fair. Cardboard robot powered by gears I'd scavenged from Dad's broken wall clock. Eyes made of red LEDs pulled from a discarded Christmas light strand. The paint was still tacky on the cardboard when I dragged it through the front door, sneakers squeaking on the Saltillo tile. Dad was sunk deep in his leather recliner, cold beer sweating in his grip. Eyes locked on the backyard flat screen, replaying Caleb's t-ball practice, who'd spent the game digging in the dirt with a plastic bat. Dad, look, it lights up when you press the button. I beamed, flipping the switch. The LEDs flickered to life. He glanced over, grunted, cute, then turned back to the screen where Caleb struck out for the 3rd time. Mom swooped in later that evening, framing Caleb's lime green participation sticker in a glossy black shadow box above the fireplace mantle. My robot shoved into the garage corner, next to the rusty lawnmower and boxes of Christmas decorations, where it gathered dust and spiderwebs. That garage became a mausoleum for every spark of my talent they ignored. By 9, I'd taught myself QBasic on our clunky family gateway PC, typing away in the dim glow of the CRT monitor while Caleb played Halo on the Xbox downstairs. I coded text-based adventure games Escape the Dragon's Lair, where players typed commands to navigate traps. I printed the code on dot matrix paper, showed Mom the flickering green screen. "That's nice, honey," she said, distracted, unwrapping Caleb's brand new PlayStation 2 $400, complete with a stack of games, all for being a good sport after losing a spelling bee. I got a secondhand JanSport backpack with a broken zipper and a faint mildew smell from the thrift store. "Make do," Dad muttered, ruffling Caleb's hair as he tore into the wrapping. High school turned the favoritism into a chasm wider than the Colorado River. I devoured online to freako-decamp building functional apps while pulling straight A's in AP Computer Science. I created an inventory tracker for the local coffee shop, charging $50, a booking system for the neighborhood yoga studio, another $75. Every dollar went into a shoebox under my bed. Caleb, meanwhile, flunked out of UT Austin after 1 semester of business classes, spending more time at 6th Street bars than lecture halls. Dad paid the $12,000 tuition bill anyway. No questions, no lectures. He's networking. Mom cooed, signing the check with a flourish. Building connections. I funded my own degree at Texas State University night classes after shifts at a campus IT help desk. surviving on Red Bull and microwave burritos. Graduating summa cum laude with a 4.0 GPA and $38,000 in student loans hanging over me like a storm cloud. Ready to burst. Dad's graduation gift to me, a crisp $100 Visa gift card for gas, or whatever. A gleaming new Ford F-150, $45, lifted suspension, chrome rims, keys dangling from a red ribbon in the driveway. The whole family clapping as he revved the engine. After graduation, the grind intensified. I moved back into the Cedar Park house temporarily to save for a condo downtown. Dad laid down the law the first week. $700 monthly rent. Cash only, handed over in a plain white envelope every first of the month. No receipts, no tax deductions, no questions. House expenses, he grunted, pocketing the bills with a satisfied smirk, the paper crinkling like dry leaves. Caleb, of course, occupied the fully finished guest suite in the walkout basement rent-free his so-called podcast studio. A chaotic den of unused condenser microphones, tangled XLR cables, empty White Claw cans stacked like modern art, and a glowing RGB keyboard he used mostly for Mom called it creative incubation and slipped him $300 mic upgrades or soundproofing foam every week. No strings attached. My paychecks from freelance gigs, bug fixes for startups, custom dashboards for e-commerce, sites went straight into Dad's wallet. You're lucky we keep the lights on and the AC running, he'd say, counting the crisp hundreds under the kitchen pendant light. I nodded, swallowed the bitterness like cheap coffee, and coded until the wee hours lines of Python and React blurring on my dual monitors. The soft click of keys my only companion. Vance Code was my secret escape hatch, a SaaS platform for small gyms to manage memberships, schedules, and payments. I'd registered the domain quietly, built the MVP in stolen hours, and seeded a high-yield savings account with every royalty check from side projects. Grandma, my quiet ally from San Antonio, had slipped me $5,000 in college for tech investments, crypto, index funds that had ballooned into a buffer they knew nothing about. The Sunday dinner was supposed to be just another ritual. A brief pause in my sprint toward freedom. I'd driven in from a co-working space in Austin that afternoon, laptop bag slung over my shoulder, still buzzing from closing a $35,000 contract with FlexFeed, a chain of boutique gyms needing a custom CRM scalable, sleek, integrated with Stripe and Apple Health, my code. My breakthrough? I mentioned it casually over the cornbread, steam rising as I broke a square in half. The apps live in beta. They love the real-time analytics. Caleb snorted, mouthful of brisket, another nerd side hustle. When are you getting a real job, Nora? Like, one that doesn't involve staring at screens all day. Aunt Lisa tittered into her wine glass. Uncle Ray chuckled, wiping sauce from his beard. Cousin Theo looked up from his phone, curious but silent. Dad's eyes narrowed, carving knife pausing. I'd been pushing back lately. The rent had jumped from $700 to $900 in under a year. No explanation, no improvements to the house. You think you're special because you code, Dad said, voice rising like the smoke from the pit. Caleb's the face of this family, the charisma, the presence. Accept how things are. Accept the unfair treatment. Pack your bags and leave right now. Mom nodded vigorously, passing Caleb another heap of brisket. The fat glistening, the smoky scent that usually comforted me now turned sour in my mouth, clinging to the back of my throat. I folded my napkin precisely, the linen cool against my heated skin. "'Kay?" I said, my voice calm, almost conversational, like discussing the weather. "I'll leave." Dad barked a laugh, meat juices flecking his beard. "Good luck paying those loans without our roof, little girl. You'll be back in a week, begging." Caleb raised his glass in mock toast. Aunt Lisa whispered something to Uncle Ray. I stood, chair scraping softly against the tile, the sound sharp in the sudden hush. "Watch me," I said, and walked toward the hallway. Past the sideboard where the peach cobbler sat untouched, its lattice crust golden and forgotten. That night, the house felt smaller than ever, the walls closing in like a poorly optimized loop. I packed a duffel bag, laptop, chargers, a few changes of clothes, the childhood robots lead eyes I'd salvaged years ago as a reminder. My phone buzzed relentlessly. Mia Ortiz, my best friend since freshman orientation at Texas State, a corporate lawyer with a spine forged in steel and zero tolerance for family nonsense. "Meet me at Torchy's Tacos on Guadalupe 24 hours. She texted. I slipped out at 11:47 p.m., the gravel driveway crunching under my tires as I pulled away from the ranch house for the last time, the porch light casting long shadows like accusing fingers. Mia was already in a corner booth, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, a basket of untouched queso between us. She slid a thick manila folder across the sticky table. "You're not walking away broke, Nora. Not after what they've done." Inside, meticulously compiled evidence bank screenshots I'd forwarded her over months. CSV exports from the joint checking account Dad had forced me to link for easy rent transfers. A Google Sheet ledger I'd maintained in secret with dates, amounts, and notes. $42,000 total every $700, then $900 envelope, time-stamped, labeled in Dad's blocky handwriting as family investments or house fund. Mia's paralegal had subpoenaed the full transaction history from the credit union. Withdrawals traced directly to Caleb's truck payments, $1,200 a month, Mom's biweekly salon visits, $450 each, even Aunt Lisa's birthday cruise contribution. "This is theft," Mia whispered, her eyes fierce under the harsh lights. "Embezzlement from your earnings. We can freeze the account, file for repayment with interest, and bury them in legal fees if they fight." I stared at the numbers, the betrayal crystallizing like frost on a window. All those skipped meals, all-nighters, debugging at 3 a.m. The weight of their judgment tit had funded Caleb's lifted suspension and Mom's pearl necklace. I didn't sleep a wink. From the Torchy's parking lot, under the glow of a sodium street lamp, I emailed the FlexFit CEO, confirming the contract and requesting a $10,000 advance to accelerate development. Then I logged into my secret high-yield account. $72,500 accumulated from Vanscode beta subscriptions. Crypto gains from Grandma's seed money, Bitcoin at $18,000. Ethereum dividends, and disciplined I transferred every cent into Vanscode LLC, the entity Mia had helped me incorporate quietly 6 months prior under Texas law. By 4:12 a.m., the paperwork was filed with the Secretary of State. By dawn, I was crashing on Mia's couch in her South Congress loft, the first rays of sun painting the Colorado River gold through floor-to-ceiling windows. The faint smell of tacos still on my clothes. The fallout began as a drip, then a flood. Dad's first text, 3 days later. Asterisk rents. Due $900. Where is it? I left it on red. The notification bubble a tiny act of defiance. Mom called next. Voice syrupy sweet like her cobbler. Asterisk baby girl. Your dad didn't mean it like that. He's stressed from work. Come home. We'll talk over breakfast tacos. Asterisk, I blocked the number without a second thought. Caleb tried voicemail at 1:57 a.m., slurring over bar noise. Asterisk, you're ruining everything. Nora, Dad's pissed you're killing Mom with this drama. Come fix it. Asterisk Mia, monitoring the joint account from her firm's secure portal. Reported back daily. Withdrawals halted abruptly. The $1,200 truck note bounced. Mom's salon charged a $75 NSF fee. Utility bills piled up electric water. The $3,800 quarterly property tax Dad had forgotten using my money. They'd been floating their lifestyle on my back, assuming I'd never leave the nest. I sublet a raw loft in East Austin, exposed brick walls. Creaky freight elevator, the constant hum of 6th Street below. It smelled of fresh paint and possibility. Vanscode exploded from there. The FlexFit CRM went live in 8 weeks, delighting investors. Word spread. A fintech startup in Dallas hired me for a fraud detection dashboard. $48,000. A nonprofit network for foster youth needed. A secure case management portal, $62,000. Pro bono credits turned paid. I hired 3 junior developers, Maria from San Antonio, Jay from Houston, Leela from right here in Austin, all underdogs with fire in their code. Revenue crossed 7 figures by month 9. I paid down $30,000 in student debt in one lump sum, bought a used Tesla Model 3 for client runs, and finally slept without the thump of Caleb's failed podcast bass rattling through the floorboards, or Dad's heavy footsteps pacing overhead. The truth bomb was engineered with surgical precision. Mia scheduled a mandatory family meeting back at the ranch house, framing it as an urgent update on Grandma's estate from San Antonio, potential inheritance. Trusts? The works. Dad bid immediately, sensing dollar signs. He showed up in his starched Sunday shirt, khakis pressed. Caleb rolled in wearing $300 designer sneakers, my rent money, and a smug grin. Mom clutched her new pearl necklace, the one I'd seen on the statements. Aunt Lisa and Uncle Ray tagged along for the free legal advice. They gathered around the same oak table, now cleared of dinner. The scent of lemon polish unable to mask the faint barbecue ghost. Mia laid the manila folder down with a soft thud, like a gavel. Nora's contributions to the family, she announced, voice calm as a frozen lake. The statements fanned out like a deck of cards in a high-stakes game, $42,000 in transfers. Every envelope photographed, every label circled in red pen. Dad's face drained to the color of printer paper. Caleb's fork midrich for a leftover dinner roll clattered to the tile. Mom's pearls swung like a pendulum as her hand flew to her mouth. "You stole from me," I said, standing by the hallway door, laptop bag slung over my shoulder, ready to exit. Every month, while I ate instant ramen and debugged at 3 a.m. labeled family, but it paid for Caleb's truck lift kit. Your bi-weekly facials, even Aunt Lisa's cruise deposit, Dad stammered. Sweat beading on his forehead, it was for the house, the roof. The MIA interrupted smoothly, sliding the property tax delinquency notice across the oak. The house facing an $11,200 lien for 2 years unpaid. The one the county is auctioning next quarter. The room reeked of burnt coffee from the pot Mom had forgotten on the burner hours ago, and the metallic temps of panic. Caleb lunged forward, chair scraping, face red as the barbecue sauce. "This is bullshit. You can't prove." Mia's hand shot up like a stop sign. "We already did. The account is frozen, pending forensic audit. Vanscode LLC owns all intellectual property, including the CRM generating 6 figures. You get nothing more." I met Dad's eyes. The same eyes that had dismissed my robot, my code, my dreams. "I'm done," I said. The words final, quiet, laced with the power of someone who no longer needed approval. Mom sobbed into her napkin, but the tears were for the life-slipping Awatha's salon appointments. The truck? The illusion, not for me. I turned and walked out, the screen door banging shut behind me like a period at the end of a very long, toxic sentence. They tried every tactic in the book afterward. Dad showed up unannounced at my East Austin loft 2 weeks later. Hat literally in hand, rain dripping from his jacket onto the concrete floor. "We're family, Nora. Blood doesn't quit. Let's fix this over dinner." I pointed to the discreet security camera above the door, its red light blinking. "Leave now, or I call a PD for trespassing." He shuffled away, shoulders slumped. Mom mailed handwritten letters on scented stationery asterisk. "I'm so sorry. Mia, we were wrong. Come home asterisk. Quach. One more desperate." I recycled them unopened, the perfume lingering like a bad memory. Caleb's podcast gear hit Facebook Marketplace in frantic lots. Condenser mics for $150. RGB keyboard for $40. The soundproofing foam peeled off walls and sold for pennies. His beloved F-150, repossessed 3 months later, towed from the driveway in the dead of night. The repo man's floodlights cutting through the dark like judgment. A year in, Vanscode relocated to a glass-walled office downtown on Congress Avenue, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Capitol. My code projected on massive screens during client pitches. The hum of stand-up desks and whiteboards alive with algorithms. I launched a free coding boot camp for teen girls from underserved schools. First cohort of 20. Laptops donated, mentors from Google and Dell. The graduation ceremony, held in the same loft where I'd once crashed on Mia's couch. Dad took a warehouse job at a Costco distribution center, $18 an hour, scanning pallets under fluorescent lights until his back screamed. Mom cleaned houses for a maid service, her once manicured hands raw from bleach, tips barely covering groceries. Caleb delivered for DoorDash and Uber Eats. His Tesla dreams replaced by a dented Civic, dashing between Whataburger runs for $3 tips and ramen dinners. The Cedar Park Ranch house went to sheriff's auction, sold to a flipper for $185,000 under market value. The new owners gutting the oak table for granite counter. I didn't bid, I didn't need to. One crisp fall evening, I stood on my office balcony, city lights flickering below like living code, a fresh deployment compiling on my laptop. The girl who once hid a cardboard robot in the garage now ran an empire valued at 8 figures. Her algorithms powering gyms from Austin to Amsterdam. Grandma's voice echoed from those San Antonio visits. "Code your own path, Mia," and I never looked back. Thank you for staying with me to the end. What would you have chosen at that dinner table, acceptance or the door? Share your thoughts below and the city you're from. Let's keep this story alive.